Okay, so buckle up because this deep dive is going to take us down a rabbit hole of some seriously wild theories. The kind of stuff that makes you wonder if we're really alone in the universe. Or maybe, more accurately, if we want be.
And the really interesting thing is a lot of these theories, they aren't just pulled out of thin air. We're diving into Historia Theoria Tenebrosus.txt, and let me tell you, this source doesn't hold back.
Oh, I took one look at that title, Historia Theoria Tenebrosus.txt, and knew we were in for a ride. But speaking of unsettling encounters, let's talk about that feeling you get when something seems almost human, but just a little off.
You're talking about the Uncanny Valley.
Right, it's like instinctively you know something's not quite right, like that robot in that movie, the one with the creepy smile.
It's not just a matter of aesthetics, though. There's a theory that this Uncanny Valley reaction is actually a deeply ingrained survival mechanism.
Seriously, okay, I need to hear this. How could being creeped out by something that looks almost human help us survive?
Well, picture this. You're one of our early ancestors, right? You encounter something that moves and looks almost like you, but something's off. Is it a potential threat? A rival for resources?
Or maybe something even weirder, something that's evolved to mimic us but hasn't quite nailed the human look.
Exactly. That's what this text proposes, that the Uncanny Valley was our way of spotting those subtle inconsistencies, a way to avoid danger in those crucial early days.
That's actually a really fascinating theory. It makes you wonder how we'll react as AI and robotics get even more sophisticated, more lifelike. Will there be a point where our brains just can't handle it?
It's a valid concern, and one that researchers are already looking into. But this source takes the Uncanny Valley idea a step further and suggests that our ancestors might have experienced this with Neanderthals.
Whoa. Now that's a thought. You're saying Neanderthals might have triggered that same something's not right feeling in our ancestors.
It's a chilling possibility, right? Imagine encountering a species that's so close to human, yet different enough to set off those alarm bells deep within your brain.
It's like a primal fear, hardwired into us from a time when we had to be constantly on guard.
And speaking of primal responses, this source also delves into something else that's deeply ingrained in us: our reactions to extreme stress and trauma.
Yeah, they actually talk about this one person's experience. This person felt invincible working in a war zone, but back home, the most mundane things would completely set them off. It's like their brain just couldn't switch gears.
That's the thing about trauma. It rewires us in ways we don't always understand. The text connects this to PTSD and how our minds can dissociate from trauma in the moment, almost as a way to cope.
It's a survival mechanism, but man, it comes with a heavy price.
Absolutely. Because even when we're out of immediate danger, the effects of trauma linger. Our brains are still processing, still healing, and sometimes that means being on high alert even when there's no obvious threat.
It's like that feeling you get after a near-miss accident, right? Your heart's racing, your palms are sweaty, even though the danger has passed.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to a point I found particularly interesting. Well, this source kind of takes this idea of survival, like we were talking about with trauma, and zooms out, way out, like to the entire universe.
Okay, now we're going from 0 to 60, so we're talking cosmic scale now.
Exactly. It dives into the Fermi paradox.
Yeah.
Which, boils down to this. If the universe is so vast, so full of possibilities, where is everyone else? Why haven't we encountered any other intelligent life?
Yeah, it's a question that's always kind of bothered me. I mean, statistically speaking, the odds of us being completely alone out here just seem impossible.
Right. And the text goes into this, how the Drake equation tries to make sense of it all. Factoring in the rate of star formation, planets that could support life. Even with all those variables, it just makes the silence from the cosmos that much louder.
So, what's the explanation? What does this Historia Theoria Tenebrosus thing say about why we haven't bumped into our galactic neighbors yet?
Well, it throws out some pretty unsettling possibilities. One is that maybe reaching a certain technological point is actually a civilization's downfall.
Oh, like they invent something that ends up destroying them.
Exactly. Think about us,
Right.
right? We've come pretty darn close to wiping ourselves out with nuclear weapons, and we're still a relatively young species.
So it's like a cosmic trial by fire. If you can't handle your own inventions, you don't get to join the Galactic Club.
That's a sobering thought for sure. But then it gets even wilder. This source also suggests that maybe advanced civilizations aren't wiping themselves out. Maybe they're intentionally hiding.
Intentionally hiding. Like from what? Okay. Now we're getting into some spooky territory.
Right, like what if we're not just alone? We're totally oblivious. Like we're stumbling around a dark forest, completely unaware of the predators lurking just beyond our sight.
Okay, that is a terrifying thought. It's like that feeling you get when you're swimming in a murky lake. You can't see what's beneath the surface, but you know something could be down there.
And maybe ignorance is bliss, right? But this source doesn't let us off that easily. It also dives into a more universal fear, a more final end to things. We're talking about the big crunch, the universe collapsing in on itself.
The ultimate reset button.
And here's the unsettling part. We wouldn't see it coming. No warning, no time to prepare, just poof, existence as we know it is over. It really speaks to that deep-seated fear we have, the fear of the universe ending without any explanation, any fanfare, just a cosmic curtain call we didn't even know was coming.
Okay, can we switch gears for a second? Because this source also talks about what happens after we die. And let me tell you, it gets pretty out there.
You're talking about the death loops, right? The idea that we might relive our lives, or at least distorted versions of them over and over again.
Yeah, like those weird, vivid dreams where you're living a totally different life. What if those weren't just dreams, but glimpses into these past lives, these alternate timelines?
Exactly, and this text even connects it to déjà vu, that eerie feeling of I've been here before, even though you know you haven't. What if those are just echoes of those past lives bleeding through, those moments where our timelines intersect?
Okay, I have to admit, this is kind of messing with my head. But it's also fascinating, right? And this source takes it even further with the concept of a cyclical universe.
Right, the idea that the universe isn't expanding infinitely, but constantly expanding and contracting. Each cycle, a new iteration of the last, maybe with slight variations. Like imagine the possibilities, the chances to get things right, or at least differently.
So instead of fearing these cycles, maybe we should be looking at them as a chance. A cosmic do-over, a chance to get things right, to make different choices.
It definitely adds another dimension to that whole live each day like it's your last idea, that's for sure.
It really makes you think about free will versus destiny, doesn't it? Like, if these cycles are real, are we truly in control of our choices? Or are we just playing out a predetermined script?
Those are some pretty deep questions. And this source doesn't shy away from them. It grapples with those big existential concepts in a way that's both unsettling and strangely hopeful.
Yeah, for every terrifying theory in here, there's another one that's just awe-inspiring. But I have to admit, that whole advanced civilizations intentionally hiding thing is still bugging me.
It's definitely one of the more unsettling possibilities, isn't it? This idea that maybe we're better off not knowing what else is out there, that ignorance really is bliss when it comes to the cosmos.
It's like that saying, what is it? Sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug. Except in this case, we definitely don't want to be on the windshield when it comes to encountering other life forms.
It's a humbling thought, right? We think we're so advanced, but what if we're just starting out? What if there are things out there that are so far beyond our comprehension, we wouldn't even know what we were looking at?
Makes you feel pretty small, doesn't it? But there was one last point in here that really stuck with me. Something about the true nature of the universe
And how discovering it might actually be the end of it all.
Yeah, it's like a cosmic self-destruct button. As long as we keep searching for answers, we're safe. But the moment we actually find them, poof.
It's like the universe has this built-in safety mechanism. It's almost as if it's saying, you can look, but don't touch.
It makes you wonder if some mysteries are best left unsolved. Like maybe ignorance really is bliss, especially when it comes to the universe and its secrets.
Or maybe, just maybe, it's the ultimate challenge. Maybe we're supposed to keep pushing those boundaries, keep asking those questions, even if it means risking everything.
That's a pretty heavy thought to end on. So listeners, what do you think? Are you ready to embrace the mystery, even if it means facing the unknown? Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, try not to let those existential anxieties keep you up at night.